The silence in room 312 was broken only by the steady beeping of machines and the soft whisper of the ventilator. Dr. Amara Thompson had performed this routine countless times over the past 2 years, but something felt different today. The man lying motionless on the hospital bed looked peaceful, almost too peaceful. His chest rose and fell with mechanical precision, and his face showed no signs of the trauma that had brought him here. Vincent Blake had been in a coma for exactly 2 years, 3 months and 15 days. Amara knew because she had been counting. Every morning she would enter his room, check his vitals, examine his progress and change his bandages. The head injury from his car accident had been severe, but his body had healed remarkably well. It was his mind that remained locked away, unreachable. Today, like every other day, Amara approached his bedside with her medical cart. She pulled on her latex gloves and began unwrapping the bandage around his head. The scar had healed beautifully, leaving only a thin line near his temple. She had always been careful with his bandages, making sure they were clean and properly positioned. Something about Vincent Blake made her want to take extra care, though she could never explain why. As she lifted the old bandage away, she noticed his eyelids flutter. This wasn't unusual. Coma patients often showed reflexive movements. But then it happened again, more deliberately this time. Amara paused, her hands frozen above his head. She had seen false alarms before, moments when families got their hopes up only to be disappointed. "Mr. Blake?" she whispered, not expecting any response. His eyes opened. Not the slow, gradual opening she had witnessed with other patients emerging from comas. Vincent Blake's eyes snapped open as if he had simply been sleeping and someone had called his name. Deep brown eyes, alert and focused, stared directly at her. For a moment, neither of them moved. Amara felt her heart hammering in her chest as she looked into those eyes that held intelligence, confusion, and something else she couldn't identify. "Where?" Vincent's voice was rough, barely audible. He tried to sit up, but his muscles were weak from 2 years of inactivity. Amara gently placed her hand on his shoulder, keeping him lying down. "Don't try to move too quickly," she said, her medical training kicking in despite her shock. You've been asleep for a while." Vincent's eyes never left her face. He seemed to be studying her, as if trying to remember something important. "You," he whispered. "I know your voice." Amara's breath caught. During his coma, she had made a habit of talking to him while she worked. She had read him news articles, told him about her day, and even shared stories from her childhood. The doctors said it might help stimulate brain activity, but she had done it more for herself than for him. The loneliness of working with coma patients was something she had never gotten used to. "I need to call the doctor," she said, reaching for the call button. "Wait." Vincent's hand moved slightly, and she saw him trying to reach for her. "Please. Just stay for a minute." The machines around them continued their steady rhythm, but everything else seemed to have stopped. Amara looked at this man who had been her silent companion for over 2 years, and realized that everything was about to change. She had no idea that in this moment, with a simple bandage change, her entire life was about to transform. "What's your name?" Vincent asked, his voice getting stronger with each word. "Dr. Amara Thompson," she replied, maintaining her professional tone despite the chaos in her mind. "Amara," he repeated, and the way he said her name sent a strange warmth through her. "Thank you." "For what?" Vincent's eyes closed briefly, and when they opened again, they were filled with an emotion she couldn't name. "For staying with me. I heard you, every day." Your voice, it was the only thing that felt real. Amara's professional composure began to crack. She had talked to many coma patients over the years, but none had ever told her they could hear her. The possibility that Vincent had been aware, that he had been listening to her rambling stories and random thoughts, was both thrilling and terrifying. "I should really call Dr. Martinez," she said, but she made no move toward the call button. "In a minute," Vincent said. I need to understand." "How long?" Amara hesitated. This was always the hardest part, telling patients how much time they had lost. 2 years and 3 months. She watched as the reality hit him. His face went through a series of emotions: shock, disbelief, fear, and finally, a kind of resignation. 2 years, he repeated quietly. "Yes. You were in a car accident. You've been in a coma since then." Vincent was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. Then he looked at her again and she saw something that surprised her: gratitude. "You've been taking care of me this whole time?" "I'm one of your doctors, yes." "No," he said, shaking his head slightly. "It's more than that. I remember your voice, your stories. You told me about your sister's wedding, about the stray cat you found, about your grandmother's recipe for sweet potato pie. Amara felt heat rise in her cheeks. She had shared so much with this unconscious man, treating him like a confidant rather than a patient. I shouldn't have. You saved me, Vincent interrupted. Not just medically. You kept me connected to the world. To life. The weight of his words settled between them. Amara had always wondered if her one-sided conversations made any difference. Now she knew they had made all the difference. I really do need to call the other doctors now, she said softly. Vincent nodded, but his eyes remained fixed on her face. Will you stay? While they run their tests. There was something vulnerable in his request, something that went beyond the typical doctor-patient relationship. Amara knew she should maintain professional boundaries, but looking at Vincent Blake, really looking at him for the first time as a conscious, aware person, she found herself nodding. I'll stay, she promised. As she reached for the call button, she had no idea that this simple promise would change both of their lives forever. The man in the bed was no longer just a patient. He was Vincent Blake, and he was awake, and he was looking at her like she was the most important person in the world. The chaos that followed, doctors rushing in, tests being ordered, family members being called, seemed to happen in a blur. But through it all, Amara kept her promise. She stayed by his side, and Vincent's eyes never left her face. Something had begun in that quiet moment when their eyes first met. Something that neither of them fully understood yet, but both of them felt deeply. The bandage change that was supposed to be routine had become the moment that changed everything. The next 24 hours passed in a whirlwind of medical tests, neurological evaluations, and hushed conversations in the hallway. Vincent Blake's awakening had created a buzz throughout the hospital. Patients didn't usually emerge from 2-year comas with such clarity and awareness. Dr. Martinez, the head of neurology, called it remarkable. The nurses whispered about miracles. But for Amara, it felt more complicated than that. She had been assigned to continue as Vincent's primary care doctor, at least until his condition stabilized. This should have been purely professional, monitor his recovery, assess his cognitive function, and help him regain his strength. But every time she entered his room, she felt that same strange connection from the day before. Vincent was sitting up in bed when she arrived for her morning rounds. His dark hair was disheveled and he looked tired, but his eyes were bright and alert. He turned toward her the moment she walked in, and she saw relief wash over his face. Good morning, she said, checking his chart. How are you feeling today? Like I've been hit by a truck, he replied, then paused. Actually, I guess I was hit by a truck. Or something like that. Amara smiled despite herself. Your sense of humor seems to be intact. That's something, I suppose? Vincent watched her as she checked his vitals. Dr. Thompson, can I ask you something? Of course. Yesterday when I first woke up, you seemed, I don't know, surprised? More than just medically surprised. Amara's hands stilled on his pulse point. She had been hoping he wouldn't ask about that. It's always significant when a patient emerges from a coma, she said carefully. That's not what I meant. Vincent's directness caught her off guard. Even after 2 years of caring for him, she was still adjusting to the fact that he could now speak, think, and observe her reactions. I don't understand, she said, though she did understand perfectly. I think you do. Vincent's voice was gentle but persistent. I remember your voice, Amara. I remember the stories you told me, the way you talked to me like I was a person instead of just a patient. That's not standard medical care. Heat crept up Amara's neck. I believed that stimulation might help your recovery. Is that the only reason? The question hung in the air between them. Amara knew she should give him a professional answer, something about patient care and medical best practices. But looking into his eyes, she found herself unable to lie. No, she admitted quietly. It wasn't the only reason. Vincent nodded as if he had expected this answer. I felt less alone when you were here. Even unconscious, I somehow knew when you were in the room. Your voice was like an anchor. Vincent, I know this is complicated, he continued. I know you're my doctor and I'm your patient. But I also know that something happened between us during those 2 years, even if I was unconscious for most of it. Amara set down his chart and looked at him directly. What do you remember about your life before the accident? The change of subject was intentional, but Vincent didn't miss it. Still, he allowed her to redirect their conversation. It's strange, he said, frowning slightly. I remember most things clearly, my childhood, my education, my work. But it all feels distant. Like I'm looking at someone else's life. That's not unusual after a traumatic brain injury, Amara explained. Your memories should become clearer as you recover. What about my family? Has anyone visited? Amara hesitated. This was one of the hardest parts of Vincent's case. Your brother James has been here several times. He's been managing your business affairs while you were unconscious. But he hasn't visited regularly. Neither have your friends or anyone else. Vincent absorbed this information without visible emotion. I see. I'm sorry. I know that must be difficult to hear. Actually, it's not as surprising as it should be, Vincent said thoughtfully. I'm starting to remember what my life was like before the accident. I worked constantly, rarely made time for relationships. I suppose I shouldn't expect people to wait around for 2 years when I barely made time for them before. That's a very mature way to look at it. Or maybe I'm just trying to make myself feel better. Vincent smiled ruefully. Tell me about you, Amara. I know bits and pieces from your stories, but I want to know more. I'm your doctor, Vincent. We shouldn't. We're already past professional boundaries, he interrupted gently. We crossed that line somewhere in the last 2 years, whether we meant to or not. Amara knew he was right. She had shared more with unconscious Vincent than she had with some of her closest friends. She had told him about her struggles in medical school, her fears about her career, her dreams of making a difference in people's lives. In return, his silent presence had become a source of comfort for her. I'm 28, she said finally. I grew up in Georgia, went to medical school at Emory. I've been working here for 3 years. What made you want to be a doctor? My grandmother had a stroke when I was 12. I spent a lot of time in the hospital with her, watching the doctors and nurses. I wanted to be able to help people the way they helped her. Did she recover? She did, mostly. She lived another 10 years after that stroke. She always said the doctors gave her those extra years with our family. Vincent listened intently to every word. And now you're giving other families more time with their loved ones. I try to. You gave me more than time, Vincent said softly. You gave me hope even when I didn't know I needed it. The intensity in his voice made Amara's heart skip. She had never had a patient speak to her this way, with such genuine emotion and gratitude. More than that, she had never had anyone look at her the way Vincent was looking at her now, like she was extraordinary. I need to finish my rounds, she said, stepping back from his bed. Of course. I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable. It's not that. Amara paused at the door. It's just, this is all very new. You've been unconscious for 2 years and now you're awake, and I don't know how to separate the patient I cared for from the person you are now. Maybe you don't have to, Vincent said quietly. After she left, Amara couldn't concentrate on her other patients. Vincent's words echoed in her mind, maybe you don't have to. But she did have to. She was his doctor and he was vulnerable, confused, and probably transferring his gratitude into something that felt like deeper emotion. Yet as she went through the motions of her day, she couldn't shake the feeling that Vincent Blake was different from any patient she had ever treated. And maybe, just maybe, what was happening between them was different too. That evening, she found herself standing outside his room, hesitating before she went in for her final check. Through the window, she could see him staring at the ceiling, lost in thought. When he saw her, his face lit up with genuine happiness. I was hoping you'd come back, he said. Just checking on you before I go home. Stay for a few minutes? Please? Against her better judgment, Amara sat in the chair beside his bed. How are you feeling about everything? It must be overwhelming. It is, Vincent admitted. But not in the way you might think. I keep expecting to feel more upset about losing 2 years of my life, but instead I feel grateful. Grateful? I think I was living the wrong life before the accident. Working all the time, never connecting with anyone, never stopping to appreciate anything. Maybe I needed to be forced to stop. That's a very philosophical way to look at a traumatic brain injury. Vincent laughed and the sound filled the room with warmth. You're right. I'm probably just trying to make sense of something that doesn't make sense. Recovery is different for everyone, Amara said. There's no right or wrong way to process what you've been through. What about you? How are you processing all this? The question caught her off guard. What do you mean? I mean, you've been caring for me for 2 years. Now I'm awake and your patient has become a person. That must be strange for you too. Amara was quiet for a moment. It is strange, she admitted. But not in a bad way. No. It's nice to finally meet you properly. Vincent smiled and Amara felt that familiar warmth spread through her chest. She was in trouble and she knew it. But looking at Vincent Blake, awake and aware and looking at her like she was the most important person in his world, she couldn't bring herself to care. Over the next week, Vincent's recovery progressed rapidly. His physical therapy sessions showed remarkable improvement, and his cognitive function tests came back normal. Dr. Martinez was amazed by how quickly Vincent was adapting to being awake again. But Amara noticed something else. Every day Vincent seemed more like himself and less like a patient. She had started timing her visits to his room for when she had a few extra minutes. What began as extended medical checks had evolved into genuine conversations. Vincent was intelligent, funny, and surprisingly thoughtful. He asked about her day, remembered details from their previous conversations, and seemed genuinely interested in her life outside the hospital. "Tell me about your typical day," Vincent said one afternoon as Amara was checking his mobility exercises. "You really want to know?" "I do. I've been lying here for 2 years. I want to know what the real world is like." Amara sat on the edge of his bed, something she had never done with any other patient. "Well, I wake up at 5:30, get to the hospital by 7. I usually have about 12 patients to check on during my rounds." "Am I the most difficult?" "Actually, you're probably the easiest now that you're awake." "Now that I'm awake," Vincent repeated. "What was I like before?" "You were." Amara paused, thinking. "Peaceful. You never seemed agitated or restless like some coma patients. You just looked like you were sleeping." "Were you ever afraid I wouldn't wake up?" The question was serious, and Amara found herself giving an honest answer. "Yes, especially after the first year. The chances of recovery decreased significantly after that. But you kept taking care of me anyway." "Of course. That's my job." "Is it your job to read to patients? To tell them about your life?" Amara felt her cheeks warm. "No. That was just something I did for you." "Why?" "I don't know," she admitted. "You seemed lonely, even unconscious. I thought maybe if you could hear me you'd feel less alone." Vincent reached out and gently took her hand. The touch was simple, but it sent electricity through her entire body. "I wasn't alone. You were with me." "Vincent. I know this is complicated," he said, not letting go of her hand. "But I need you to know that what I'm feeling isn't just gratitude. It's not confusion from waking up. It's something deeper than that." Amara knew she should pull her hand away, maintain professional boundaries, redirect the conversation. Instead, she found herself looking into his eyes and seeing something that made her heart race. "You don't know me," she said softly. "Not really. You know the person I was when I talked to you, but that's not the same as knowing me." "Then let me get to know you," Vincent said. "Really know you." Before Amara could respond, the door opened and Dr. Martinez walked in. Amara quickly pulled her hand away from Vincent's, hoping her face didn't show what she was feeling. "Good afternoon," Dr. Martinez said, not seeming to notice the tension in the room. "How are you feeling today, Mr. Blake?" "Much better, thank you," Vincent replied smoothly. "Excellent. I have some news about your discharge. Your recovery has been remarkable, and I think you'll be able to go home within the next few days." Amara felt her heart sink. She had known this moment would come, but she wasn't prepared for how much the thought of Vincent leaving affected her. "That's wonderful news," she said, trying to sound professional. "Yes, it is," Dr. Martinez continued. "You'll need to continue with physical therapy and have regular checkups, but there's no medical reason to keep you here." After Dr. Martinez left, the room fell silent. The reality of Vincent's discharge hung between them like a wall. "I'll be leaving soon," Vincent said finally. "Yes, that's good news. You'll be able to get back to your life." "What if I don't want to go back to my old life?" Amara looked at him, surprised by the sadness in his voice. "What do you mean?" "I've been thinking about what you said, that I don't really know you." "You're right. But I also don't think I really knew myself before the accident. I was so focused on work, on making money, on achieving the next goal that I never stopped to think about what I actually wanted." "And what do you want now?" Vincent was quiet for a long moment. "I want to get to know you. The real you. Not just the doctor who took care of me, but the woman who worried about a stray cat, who cried when she told me about her grandmother's funeral, who laughed when she described her sister's disastrous first date. You remember all that?" "I remember everything you told me. Every story, every detail. You became the most important person in my life, even though I couldn't respond to you." Amara felt tears prick her eyes. "Vincent, I care about you too. More than I should. But you're about to be discharged and I'm your doctor. This situation is already complicated enough. What if it doesn't have to be complicated? How could it not be?" Vincent sat up straighter in his bed. "When I'm discharged, I won't be your patient anymore. We'll just be two people who met under unusual circumstances. Two people from completely different worlds." "Are we?" Vincent challenged. I may have money, but I don't have what you have. I don't have your compassion, your dedication, your ability to make someone feel less alone. I don't have your strength. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? Vincent's voice was gentle but firm. Amara, I've been unconscious for 2 years. I've missed everything, technological changes, political events, cultural shifts. But you know what? None of that matters to me as much as the fact that you're here, that you cared enough to talk to me when I couldn't talk back. That's just who I am. I would have done the same for any patient. Would you? Vincent asked. Did you tell your other coma patients about your dreams? Did you share your fears with them? Did you cry when you thought they might not make it? Amara was quiet because she knew the answer. She had never connected with a patient the way she had connected with Vincent. She had never cared about someone's recovery the way she cared about his. I'm scared, she admitted finally. Of what? Of this. Of whatever is happening between us. I've never felt this way about anyone, and I don't know how to handle it. Vincent smiled softly. I've never felt this way either. But I think that's okay. We don't have to have all the answers right now. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that when I get discharged we start over. No doctor-patient relationship, no medical history. Just Vincent and Amara, getting to know each other. Like dating? Like two people who care about each other figuring out what that means. Amara looked at Vincent, really looked at him. She saw intelligence in his eyes, kindness in his expression, and something else that made her heart skip. She saw possibility. I don't know if I can do this, she said honestly. We don't have to decide anything right now, Vincent said. Just, don't say no. Not yet. That night, Amara went home to her small apartment and sat on her couch, staring at the wall. She had always been careful, always followed the rules, always maintained professional boundaries. But Vincent Blake had changed something in her. He had seen her, really seen her, in a way that no one else ever had. She thought about the conversations they had shared, the connection she had felt even when he was unconscious. She thought about the way he looked at her like she was something precious. She thought about the possibility of exploring what was between them. For the first time in her life, Amara Thompson was ready to take a risk. She was ready to see what might happen if she let herself fall for Vincent Blake. Vincent's discharge day arrived faster than Amara had expected. She had volunteered to handle his final checkup, telling herself it was just professional courtesy. But as she reviewed his paperwork, she realized she was stalling. Everything looks good, she said, signing the last form. Your recovery has been remarkable. Thanks to you, Vincent replied, buttoning his shirt. Someone had brought him clothes from home, expensive looking but simple. Amara was reminded that she still knew very little about his life outside the hospital. I did my job. You did the hard work of recovering. Amara. Vincent's voice was serious. I meant what I said the other day. About starting over. I know you did. And? Amara looked at him, this man who had somehow become so important to her. I think I'd like that. Vincent's face lit up with genuine happiness. Really? Really? But I have conditions. Name them. We take this slow. I've never dated a former patient, and I need to be sure we're both thinking clearly. Agreed. What else? I want to know everything about your life before the accident. Not just the medical history but who you were, what your world was like. Vincent's expression grew more serious. Are you sure? It might change how you see me. If it changes how I see you, then it's better that I know now. Vincent nodded slowly. All right. But not here. Let me take you to dinner tomorrow night. I'll tell you everything. After Vincent left the hospital, Amara tried to focus on her other patients, but she found herself distracted. She kept thinking about their conversation, about the dinner they had planned, about what she might learn about Vincent's life. That evening she called her sister Lauren. You sound different, Lauren said immediately. What's going on? I think I'm about to do something either very smart or very stupid. Please tell me it involves a man. Amara laughed despite her nervousness. It does involve a man. Finally. Tell me everything. It's complicated. He was my patient. Was? He was in a coma for 2 years. He woke up last week. Lauren was quiet for a moment. That's, wow. And you have feelings for him? I think I do. I know I do. What's he like? Amara found herself smiling. He's intelligent, funny, kind. He listens when I talk, really listens. He makes me feel like I'm the most interesting person in the world. That's wonderful, Amara. You deserve someone who sees how amazing you are. But what if I'm making a mistake? What if this is just some kind of trauma bonding or transference? What does your gut tell you? Amara thought about the question. My gut tells me that he's special. That what we have is real. Then trust your gut. But be careful too. The next evening, Amara spent an hour getting ready for dinner. She chose a simple black dress, nothing too fancy, but she wanted to look nice. When Vincent picked her up, she barely recognized him. Gone was the hospital patient in a gown. Vincent Blake was clearly a man of means. He wore a perfectly tailored suit and drove a car that probably cost more than Amara made in a year. But when he smiled at her, he was still the same person she had gotten to know in the hospital. You look beautiful, he said, opening the car door for her. Thank you. You look different. Different how? Like a man who owns expensive things. Vincent laughed. That's because I do own expensive things. Is that going to be a problem? I don't know yet. We'll see. He took her to a restaurant that was clearly expensive but not ostentatious. They were seated at a quiet table in the corner, away from other diners. So, Amara said after they had ordered, tell me about Vincent Blake before the accident. Vincent took a sip of his wine and leaned back in his chair. Where do I start? At the beginning. What do you do for work? I own a company. Actually, several companies. Real estate development mostly, but we've branched into other areas. How successful are we talking? Vincent looked uncomfortable. Very successful. I'm worth about $200 million. Amara nearly choked on her water. 200 million? Yes. Vincent, that's a lot of money. I know. Does it bother you? I don't know. I mean, I make $40,000 a year. We're not exactly in the same tax bracket. Money is just numbers, Amara. It doesn't change who I am. Doesn't it? She challenged. What was your life like before the accident? Vincent was quiet for a moment. Lonely, he said finally. I worked 16-hour days, traveled constantly. I had a penthouse apartment that I barely saw and a calendar full of business meetings but no real friends. What about family? I have a brother, James. He's been running the company while I was unconscious. We're not close, we never have been. My parents died when I was in college. I'm sorry. It's okay. It was a long time ago. Vincent paused. What about romantic relationships? I dated but nothing serious. I was always too focused on work to invest in a real relationship. That's sad. It is sad. But I didn't realize how sad until I woke up and realized that no one had really missed me. Amara reached across the table and took his hand. That's not true. I missed you every day you were unconscious. You didn't even know me. I knew the person you were becoming. I knew the man who was fighting to wake up. Vincent squeezed her hand. That's the thing, Amara. I don't want to go back to being the person I was before. I want to be the person you saw in me. You can't change your entire life just because you were in an accident. Why not? What was so great about my old life? I was rich but miserable. I had everything money could buy but nothing that actually mattered. And what matters now? Vincent looked directly into her eyes. You matter. This matters. The way you make me feel matters. Vincent. I know it's too soon to say things like that. But I also know that I've never felt this way about anyone. Even before the accident, I never connected with someone the way I connect with you. This is all happening very fast. Is it? I've been listening to your voice for 2 years. I've been falling for you for 2 years, even if I was unconscious. Amara felt her heart racing. You're not the same person you were before the accident, and I'm not the same person I was when you were unconscious. We need to figure out who we are now. I agree. But I also think we should figure it out together. They talked for hours, sharing stories about their childhoods, their dreams, their fears. Vincent told her about growing up wealthy but lonely, about losing his parents young, about building his business from the ground up. Amara told him about her close-knit family, about her struggles in medical school, about her passion for helping people. We really are from different worlds, Amara said as Vincent walked her to her apartment door. Does that matter? I don't know. It might. Vincent stopped and turned to face her. Amara, I know you're scared. I'm scared too. But I also know that I don't want to waste any more time being safe and comfortable. I want to take risks. I want to feel things. I want to be with you. Even if it's complicated? Especially because it's complicated. Nothing worth having is ever simple. Amara looked at this man who had somehow become so important to her, who challenged her to think about what she really wanted from life. Okay, she said finally. Okay. Okay, let's see what happens. But we really are taking this slow. Vincent smiled and leaned down to kiss her cheek gently. Slow, he agreed. But together. As Amara watched him drive away, she realized that her life was about to change in ways she never could have imagined. Vincent Blake was no longer just a patient who had awakened from a coma. He was a man with his own complicated history, his own dreams, and his own feelings for her. She was falling for him, and for the first time in her life she was ready to see where that fall might take her. 2 weeks after Vincent's discharge, Amara's carefully ordered life had been turned upside down. Their relationship had progressed slowly, just as she had requested. They had gone on several dates, talked for hours on the phone, and spent quiet evenings together. But the more time she spent with Vincent, the more she realized how different their worlds truly were. The first sign of trouble came when Vincent invited her to a charity gala his company was sponsoring. Amara had never been to anything like it. A room full of wealthy donors, elegant dresses, and conversations about investments and vacation homes. She felt out of place from the moment they walked in. Vincent. A woman in an expensive designer dress approached them with a bright smile. How wonderful to see you. We were all so worried when we heard about your accident. Thank you, Patricia. I'd like you to meet Amara Thompson. Amara, this is Patricia Hoffman. Patricia looked Amara up and down with barely concealed assessment. How lovely to meet you. How do you two know each other? Amara is a doctor, Vincent said simply. How fascinating. Are you in private practice? Actually, I work at Metropolitan General Hospital, Amara replied. Oh. Patricia's smile became more strained. How noble of you. The conversation continued for a few more minutes, but Amara could feel Patricia's judgment. She was clearly not what people expected to see on Vincent Blake's arm. I'm sorry about that, Vincent said once Patricia had moved on. She's not usually so rude. It's fine. I don't think I belong here. You belong wherever I am, Vincent said firmly. But as the evening progressed, Amara felt increasingly uncomfortable. The conversations were about things she knew nothing about: art auctions, exclusive resorts, private schools. When people asked about her work, they seemed politely interested but clearly saw it as charity work rather than a career. Having fun? Vincent asked during a quiet moment. Everyone's very nice, Amara said diplomatically. But I feel like I'm wearing a costume. Like I'm pretending to be someone I'm not. Vincent frowned. You're not pretending to be anyone. You're being yourself. Am I? Because myself would never spend $300 on a dress for one evening. I told you I'd buy you something. And I told you I wanted to buy my own dress. But Vincent, $300 is what I spend on groceries for a month. Money doesn't matter. Easy to say when you have it. Their first real argument happened in the car on the way home. Vincent was frustrated that Amara seemed determined to focus on their financial differences. Amara was frustrated that Vincent didn't seem to understand how intimidating his world was for her. I'm not asking you to change who you are, Vincent said as they sat in her apartment. Aren't you? Because I feel like I'm supposed to fit into your world, but you're not making any effort to fit into mine. What do you mean? When's the last time you just stayed home and watched a movie? When's the last time you went to a normal restaurant where you don't need reservations? When's the last time you did something that didn't cost hundreds of dollars? Vincent was quiet for a moment. I don't know. Before the accident, I guess. See? You've gotten so used to expensive things that you don't even remember what normal feels like. Maybe that's true. But Amara, I can't change the fact that I have money. I can't pretend to be someone I'm not either. I'm not asking you to pretend. I'm asking you to understand that your normal and my normal are completely different. They were interrupted by a knock at the door. Amara opened it to find a tall man in an expensive suit. He looked like an older version of Vincent, with the same dark hair and brown eyes. James, Vincent said, standing up. What are you doing here? I could ask you the same thing, James Blake replied, looking around Amara's modest apartment. May I come in? Of course, Amara said, though she felt uncomfortable. James entered and looked between Vincent and Amara with barely concealed disapproval. Vincent, we need to talk. About what? About the fact that you've been making decisions about the company without consulting me. About the fact that you've been distracted lately. I'm not distracted. I'm recovered. Are you? James's eyes flicked to Amara. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're making the same mistakes you always made, letting your personal life interfere with business. My personal life is none of your business. It is when it affects our company. Vincent, you own 60% of Blake Industries. Your decisions affect hundreds of employees and millions of dollars in investments. I'm aware of my responsibilities. Are you? Because you missed the Morrison meeting yesterday. You've been unavailable for important calls. And now I find you here in. James gestured around the apartment dismissively. Careful, Vincent said, his voice dangerously low. That's enough. Vincent, can I speak with you privately? James asked. No. Anything you have to say to me, you can say in front of Amara. James looked at Amara with cold calculation. Fine. Dr. Thompson, I'm sure you're a lovely person. But you need to understand something about my brother. He's worth $200 million. He's been in a coma for 2 years. He's vulnerable right now and he's not thinking clearly. James, Vincent warned. I'm not finished. Dr. Thompson, I don't know what your intentions are, but I hope you realize that Vincent is not in a position to make rational decisions about relationships right now. That's enough. Vincent stood up, his face flushed with anger. Get out. Vincent, I'm trying to protect you. I don't need protection. I need my brother to respect my choices. Your choices? You've known this woman for 3 weeks. I've known her for 2 years. She was your doctor. She was being paid to take care of you. The words hung in the air like a slap. Amara felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment and anger. Get out, Vincent said again, his voice deadly quiet. Think about what you're doing, James said. Think about what you're risking. After James left, the apartment fell silent. Amara sat on her couch, staring at her hands. Vincent paced the room, clearly furious. I'm sorry, he said finally. He had no right to say those things. Maybe he had a point, Amara said quietly. What? Maybe you're not thinking clearly. Maybe this is all just confusion from your recovery. Don't you start doubting us too. Vincent, your brother just made it very clear that I don't belong in your world. And tonight at the gala, I felt the same way. My brother is an ass. And those people at the gala don't matter. They're your people. Your world. And I'm not part of it. Vincent stopped pacing and knelt in front of her. Amara, look at me. She looked up and saw desperation in his eyes. I don't care about my brother's opinion. I don't care about those people at the gala. I care about you. I care about us. But what if he's right? What if you're not thinking clearly? I've never thought more clearly in my life. Amara, you saved me. Not just medically, you saved me from a life that was empty and meaningless. You showed me what it feels like to connect with someone, to care about someone more than myself. I was doing my job. No, you weren't. You were being you. You were being the most compassionate, caring, genuine person I've ever met. And now you're letting my brother make you doubt that. Amara was quiet for a long moment. I'm scared, Vincent. I'm scared of your world, of your money, of the expectations that come with being with you. Then we'll figure it out together. We'll find a way to make this work. What if we can't? Then we'll have tried. But I'm not giving up on us because my brother is threatened by the fact that I'm finally happy. Amara looked at Vincent, kneeling in front of her, looking at her with such love and determination. She realized that she had a choice to make. She could let fear and doubt drive her away from the best thing that had ever happened to her, or she could fight for what they had. Okay, she said finally. Okay. Okay, we'll figure it out. But Vincent, I need you to understand something. I'm not going to change who I am to fit into your world. If we're going to make this work, we need to find a way to bridge our worlds, not abandon one for the other. I understand. And Amara? I love who you are. I don't want you to change anything. As Vincent held her, Amara realized that their relationship was going to be more complicated than she had ever imagined. But she also realized that she was willing to fight for it. Vincent Blake was worth fighting for. The next few weeks brought a series of challenges that tested Vincent and Amara's relationship in ways they hadn't expected. James Blake's disapproval was just the beginning. Amara first noticed the change at work. Her colleagues, who had always been friendly and supportive, began treating her differently. Conversations stopped when she entered the break room. She caught nurses whispering and looking in her direction. Finally, Dr. Martinez called her into his office. Dr. Thompson, I need to speak with you about your relationship with Vincent Blake. Amara's heart sank. What about it? There are concerns about the appropriateness of dating a former patient. Vincent was discharged 3 weeks ago. He's no longer my patient. Technically that's correct. But there are ethical considerations. The hospital board is concerned about the appearance of impropriety. Dr. Martinez, I never crossed any lines while Vincent was my patient. Our relationship began after his discharge. I believe you, Amara. But perception matters. The board is considering whether this relationship reflects poorly on the hospital. Are you asking me to choose between my job and my personal life? I'm asking you to be aware that your actions have consequences. This hospital has a reputation to maintain. After the meeting, Amara felt shaken. She had worked hard to build her career, and now it felt like it was being threatened because of her relationship with Vincent. Meanwhile, Vincent was facing his own challenges. James had called an emergency board meeting, ostensibly to discuss Vincent's return to work but actually to question his fitness to lead the company. Vincent's judgment has been compromised, James argued to the board. He's making personal decisions that could affect the company's reputation. What personal decisions? Asked board member Robert Chin. He's dating his former doctor. A woman from a completely different social class. It's inappropriate and potentially damaging to our image. That's enough, Vincent said, his voice cold. My personal life is not the board's concern. It is when it affects your decision-making, James replied. You've been distracted, unavailable, making impulsive choices. I've been recovering from a 2-year coma. I think I deserve some adjustment time. Of course you do. But Vincent, you need to consider the bigger picture. Blake Industries employs over 3,000 people. Our investors trust us to make sound decisions. And you think dating Dr. Thompson is an unsound decision? I think you're not thinking clearly about the implications. Vincent looked around the boardroom at faces he had known for years. Some looked sympathetic, others concerned, and a few clearly agreed with James. Let me be clear, Vincent said finally. I am fully competent to lead this company. My personal relationships are my own business. And if anyone has a problem with that, they can discuss it with me privately. But the damage was done. Vincent could see the doubt in their eyes, the whispers that would follow him out of the room. That evening, Vincent and Amara met at her apartment. Both were emotionally drained from their respective confrontations. How was your day? Vincent asked, though he could see from her expression that it hadn't gone well. The hospital board is questioning my ethics, Amara said bluntly. How was yours? My brother tried to have me declared unfit to run my own company. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of their situation settling over them. Maybe we should take a break, Amara said quietly. What? Maybe we should step back for a while. Let things calm down. Is that what you want? No. But Vincent, I can't lose my job. And you can't lose your company. Maybe the cost of being together is too high. Vincent moved closer to her on the couch. Amara, look at me. She met his eyes, and saw the same determination she had seen in the hospital. I didn't fight to wake up from a coma just to give up on the best thing in my life because other people don't approve. But what if they're right? What if we're being selfish? Selfish? For wanting to be happy? For finding love? For putting our feelings ahead of our responsibilities? What responsibilities? To live our lives according to other people's expectations. To be professional. To maintain appropriate boundaries. We did maintain appropriate boundaries. We waited until I was no longer your patient. We've been careful and respectful. But maybe careful and respectful isn't enough. Vincent took her hands in his. Amara, I need you to tell me something honestly. Do you love me? The question caught her off guard. They had been moving slowly, being careful with their words and emotions. But looking into Vincent's eyes, she realized she couldn't hide from the truth anymore. Yes, she whispered. I love you. I love you too. More than I've ever loved anyone. More than I thought it was possible to love someone. Then what do? Because loving each other doesn't make the problems go away. We fight. We prove that what we have is real and worth defending. How? We show them that we're not just some inappropriate fling. We show them that we're building something meaningful together. Vincent, your brother thinks I'm a gold digger. My colleagues think I'm unprofessional. How do we change their minds? We live our lives with integrity. We support each other. We don't hide, but we don't flaunt either. We just be ourselves and let our actions speak for us. What if that's not enough? Then we'll deal with whatever comes. But I'm not giving up on us. That night, as they lay together on Amara's couch, both lost in their own thoughts, Vincent realized that their relationship was entering a new phase. The honeymoon period was over, and they were facing the real challenges of building a life together across different worlds. I have an idea, Vincent said suddenly. What? What if we showed them a different side of us? What if we did something that demonstrated our values? Like what? Like using my resources to support something you care about. Like finding a way to bridge our worlds instead of choosing sides. Amara turned to look at him. What do you mean? I mean, what if we started a foundation? Something that combines my business experience with your medical knowledge? We could help people, make a difference, show everyone that this relationship is about more than just romance. Vincent, that's a huge decision. You can't start a foundation just to prove a point about our relationship. I'm not starting it just to prove a point. I'm starting it because I want to do something meaningful with my life. And I want to do it with you. Amara felt something shift inside her. This was the Vincent she had fallen in love with. The man who wanted to use his second chance at life to make a difference. What kind of foundation? I don't know yet. What do you think? What would make the biggest impact? They talked until dawn, planning and dreaming and building something together. By the time the sun rose, they had the outline of a foundation focused on providing medical care to underserved communities. This could really work, Amara said, feeling hopeful for the first time in weeks. It will work. We'll make it work. What about your brother? The board? Let them see that I'm not just recovered. I'm better than I was before. And you're the reason why. As they held each other in the early morning light, both Vincent and Amara felt a renewed sense of purpose. They weren't just fighting for their relationship anymore. They were fighting for the life they wanted to build together. The resistance they faced was real, but so was their love. And together they were stronger than any opposition. The foundation project gave Vincent and Amara a new focus, but it also brought unexpected complications. As they worked together on the proposal, they began to see sides of each other they hadn't known existed. Vincent's business mind was sharper than Amara had realized. He approached the foundation with the same strategic thinking he used in his companies, creating detailed plans and projections. But sometimes his corporate approach clashed with Amara's more personal, patient-centered perspective. We need to think about scalability, Vincent said during one of their planning sessions. If we're going to make a real impact, we need to be able to expand quickly. But we also need to make sure we're providing quality care, Amara countered. It's better to do a few things well than to spread ourselves too thin. Quality and quantity don't have to be mutually exclusive. They do if you're rushing to expand before you've figured out what works. Their disagreement was professional, but it highlighted the different ways they approached problems. Vincent was used to making big, bold moves. Amara was used to careful, methodical progress. Maybe we need to find a middle ground, Amara suggested. What do you mean? I mean, maybe we need to learn from each other. You can teach me about business strategy and I can teach you about patient care. Vincent smiled. I'd like that. As they worked together, they began to understand each other's strengths and weaknesses. Vincent learned to slow down and consider the human impact of their decisions. Amara learned to think bigger and consider the long-term sustainability of their plans. But their growing partnership also attracted more attention. James Blake was not pleased to learn that Vincent was planning to start a foundation. This is exactly what I was worried about, he said during a tense family dinner. You're making major financial decisions based on emotion. I'm making decisions based on values, Vincent replied. There's a difference. Values don't pay the bills. We have enough money to pay the bills for several lifetimes. What's the point of having wealth if you don't use it to make a difference? The point is building something that lasts. Dad built this company from nothing. Are you really going to throw it away for some idealistic fantasy? I'm not throwing anything away. I'm expanding our mission. With a woman you've known for a month. I've known her for over 2 years. She was your doctor. She was paid to take care of you. And she did more than that. She showed me what it means to really care about other people. James looked at Vincent with frustration and something that might have been fear. You're not thinking clearly. This woman has completely changed you. You're right. She has changed me. For the better. The Vincent I knew would never have considered giving away millions of dollars to start some feel-good foundation. The Vincent you knew was empty and miserable. I'm not going back to being that person. The conversation ended with harsh words and James storming out. Vincent felt sad but not surprised. He had known that his relationship with Amara would change other relationships in his life. He just hadn't expected it to be this difficult. Meanwhile, Amara was dealing with her own family dynamics. Her sister Lauren had driven up from Georgia to meet Vincent, and the meeting was not going as well as Amara had hoped. He seems nice, Lauren said carefully as they sat in Amara's kitchen while Vincent took a work call in the living room. But Amara, he's really rich. Like really, really rich. I know that. Do you? Because I don't think you understand what that means. This man could buy our parents' house with his pocket change. Money doesn't matter. Easy to say when you don't have it. But Amara, money changes everything. It changes how people treat you, how they see you, what they expect from you. You sound like his brother. Maybe his brother has a point. Not you too. Lauren reached across the table and took Amara's hand. I'm not saying you shouldn't be with him. I'm saying you need to be realistic about what you're getting into. I love him, Lauren. I can see that. And I can see that he loves you too. But love isn't always enough. What do you mean? I mean, have you thought about the long term? Are you going to quit your job and become a socialite? Are you going to have kids who grow up in a world where everything is handed to them? Are you going to be able to maintain your identity in his world? We're figuring it out. Are you? Or are you just avoiding the hard questions? That night, after Lauren had gone back to her hotel, Amara confronted Vincent about the concerns everyone seemed to have. Do you think we're being naive? She asked. About what? About thinking we can make this work. About thinking love is enough. Vincent set down his laptop and gave her his full attention. Do you think we're being naive? I don't know. Everyone seems to think we are. Everyone has an opinion. But what matters is what we think. What do you think? Vincent was quiet for a long moment. I think we're both strong, smart people who are capable of figuring this out. I think we have something special that's worth fighting for. And I think other people's doubts say more about them than about us. But what if they're right? What if we're too different? Then we'll learn to appreciate our differences. Amara, I don't want to be with someone who's exactly like me. I want to be with someone who challenges me, who makes me better, who sees the world differently than I do. And I want to be with someone who loves me for who I am, not who they think I should be. Then we're on the same page. Are we? Because sometimes I feel like I'm losing myself in your world. How so? I went shopping yesterday for the hospital charity dinner next week. I found myself looking at dresses that cost more than my monthly rent. I started thinking about whether I needed to get my hair done professionally, whether I needed to learn about wine and art and all the things your friends talk about. And I realized I was trying to become someone I'm not. Vincent moved closer to her on the couch. Amara, I fell in love with you exactly as you are. I don't want you to change anything about yourself. But I can't ignore the fact that your world has expectations. Then maybe we need to create our own world. One that works for both of us. How? I don't know yet. But I know that I'd rather figure it out with you than without you. Amara looked at Vincent, this man who had somehow become the center of her world. She saw love in his eyes, but also determination and commitment. Okay, she said finally. Okay. Okay, let's create our own world. But Vincent, I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me that no matter what happens, no matter how difficult it gets, we'll be honest with each other. About our fears, our doubts, our needs. I promise. And promise me that if this stops working, if we start losing ourselves or each other, we'll be brave enough to admit it. I promise that too. But Amara, I also promise that I'm going to fight for us every day. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure we don't lose each other. As they held each other that night, both Vincent and Amara felt a new sense of clarity. They were choosing each other, fully and completely, despite the challenges they faced. They were choosing to build something together even if no one else understood it. The truth was that their love was real, but it wasn't simple. It was complicated and challenging and sometimes difficult. But it was also worth fighting for. And they were ready to fight. The hospital charity dinner was supposed to be a celebration, but for Amara, it felt like a test. This was the first major social event she would attend with Vincent where her colleagues would be present. She had spent weeks preparing, not just her outfit but her mindset. You look beautiful, Vincent said as they arrived at the hotel ballroom. I feel nervous. Why? Because this is my world and I'm bringing you into it. What if my colleagues think I'm showing off? What if they think I've forgotten where I came from? Then they don't know you very well. As they entered the ballroom, Amara immediately felt the attention. Her colleagues looked surprised to see her with Vincent, and she could see the whispered conversations beginning. Dr. Thompson. Dr. Martinez approached with his wife. How lovely to see you. And this must be Mr. Blake. It's good to meet you, Vincent said, shaking hands. Amara speaks about you often. She's one of our finest doctors, Dr. Martinez replied. We're lucky to have her. I'm the lucky one, Vincent said, smiling at Amara. The evening progressed better than Amara had expected. Vincent was charming but not showy, interested in her colleagues' work, and respectful of the hospital's mission. He didn't try to dominate conversations or impress anyone with his wealth. I'm surprised, said Dr. Sarah Kim, one of Amara's closest colleagues at the hospital. He's not what I expected. What did you expect? I don't know. Someone more flashy? Self-important? He seems genuinely interested in what we do. He is. We're actually working on a foundation together. Really? What kind of foundation? As Amara explained their plans, she saw Sarah's expression change from skepticism to interest. That sounds amazing. The kind of program we desperately need. Vincent thinks we can make a real difference. And you? What do you think? Amara paused. I think I'm scared of dreaming too big. But I also think maybe it's time to stop playing it safe. The turning point of the evening came during the auction. Vincent had quietly bid on several items, but when the auction reached a vacation package donated by one of the hospital's board members, he made a bid that surprised everyone. $50,000, he said calmly. The room fell silent. It was significantly more than anyone had expected for the item. Vincent, Amara whispered, what are you doing? Supporting your hospital, he replied quietly. When Vincent won the auction, the room erupted in applause. But instead of accepting the congratulations, Vincent stood up. I'd like to donate this vacation package back to the hospital, he said. To be auctioned again or used as a prize for your hardworking staff. The applause was even louder this time. Amara felt tears in her eyes as she realized what Vincent had done. He hadn't made the donation to show off his wealth. He had made it to show his respect for her world and her colleagues. That was incredible, she said as they drove home. It was the right thing to do. It was more than that. You were showing them that you understand what's important to me. I do understand. Your work matters. The people you work with matter. This hospital matters. And you matter to me. That night, as they sat in Vincent's apartment for the first time, Amara had been curious about how he lived. She realized that she had been making a choice all along. Every time she defended their relationship, every time she stood up to the doubters, every time she chose to trust Vincent, she had been choosing him. I need to tell you something, she said. What? I've been scared. Not just of your world but of how much I love you. I've never felt this way about anyone, and it terrifies me. Why does it terrify you? Because I don't know how to be someone's everything. I don't know how to be the kind of woman who belongs in your life. Vincent turned to face her fully. Amara, you're not supposed to be someone's everything. You're supposed to be yourself. And you already belong in my life. You've belonged since the first day I heard your voice. But what if I'm not enough? What if I can't give you what you need? What do you think I need? I don't know. Someone sophisticated, someone who understands your world, someone who can be a proper partner for a man like you. A man like me? A successful, wealthy, important man. Vincent laughed softly. Amara, before I met you, I was none of those things. I was wealthy, yes, but I wasn't successful at anything that mattered. I wasn't important to anyone who mattered. I was just existing. That's not true. It is true. You made me successful at being human. You made me important to someone I love. You gave me a purpose beyond making money. I didn't do that. You did that. We did it together. And that's how I want to live the rest of my life. Not as some important businessman who happens to be in love, but as a man who's building something meaningful with the woman he loves. What are you saying? Vincent got up from the couch and walked to his desk. He pulled out a small velvet box and returned to sit beside her. I'm saying that I don't want to wait anymore. I don't want to spend more time worrying about what other people think or whether we're moving too fast or whether we're from different worlds. Amara's heart stopped as she saw the ring box in his hands. Vincent, I'm saying that I want to marry you. I want to build a life with you. I want to start our foundation and make a difference in the world together. I want to wake up every morning knowing that you're mine and I'm yours. We've only been together for 2 months. We've been together for 2 years. The last 2 months have just been the part where we could both participate in the conversation. Amara felt tears streaming down her face. This is crazy. Maybe. But I've learned that the best things in life are a little crazy. What if we're making a mistake? What if we're not? What if this is exactly what we're supposed to be doing? Vincent opened the ring box, revealing a simple but elegant diamond ring. Amara Thompson, will you marry me? Looking at Vincent, at this man who had changed her life in ways she never could have imagined, Amara realized that she had already made her choice. She had chosen him every day since he woke up. She had chosen love over fear, hope over doubt, possibility over safety. Yes, she whispered. Yes. Yes, I'll marry you. As Vincent slipped the ring onto her finger, Amara felt a sense of completeness she had never experienced before. They were choosing each other, fully and completely, despite all the reasons why it might not work. They were choosing love. The engagement brought both joy and new pressures. Vincent and Amara had decided to have a short engagement, wanting to start their married life and their foundation as soon as possible. But planning a wedding while dealing with ongoing family and professional challenges proved more difficult than either had expected. 6 months, Amara said as they sat with a wedding planner. We want to be married in 6 months. That's quite ambitious, the planner replied. Especially for a wedding of this scale. What scale? Amara asked, confused. Vincent and the planner exchanged glances. Well, given Mr. Blake's position in the community, we're looking at probably 300 to 400 guests. 400. Amara felt overwhelmed. I was thinking more like 50 people. 50 people? The planner looked genuinely confused. But Mr. Blake's business associates alone would be over 100 people. We don't have to invite everyone, Vincent said quickly. We can keep it small. But think about the political implications, the planner continued. If you don't invite certain people, it could affect business relationships. Amara felt a familiar sense of being overwhelmed by Vincent's world. Maybe we should elope, she said quietly. What? Maybe we should just go somewhere quiet and get married. Just us. Is that what you want? I want to marry you. I don't want to manage a political event. That evening they had their first real fight as an engaged couple. I don't understand why the wedding has to be so complicated, Amara said. It doesn't have to be. We can do whatever you want. Can we? Because it seems like there are a lot of expectations about what a Vincent Blake wedding should look like. I don't care about those expectations. Don't you? Because you seemed pretty concerned about business relationships when the planner was talking. Vincent sighed and sat down beside her. You're right. I was thinking about business. But only because I don't want our wedding to create problems for the foundation. What do you mean? I mean, if I offend potential donors or board members by not inviting them to our wedding, it could hurt our ability to raise money for the foundation. So our wedding is about fundraising now? No, that's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? Vincent was quiet for a moment. I meant that everything is connected in my world. Personal relationships, business relationships, social obligations. I can't just turn that off. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe your world is too connected. Maybe there's no room for anything genuine. That's not fair. Isn't it? When was the last time you did something just because you wanted to, without considering how it would affect your business or your image or your social standing? Vincent couldn't answer because he realized she was right. Even his decision to start the foundation had been partially motivated by wanting to prove something to his brother and the board. I don't know, he admitted. I do. It was when you woke up from your coma. For the first few weeks after you woke up, you were just Vincent. Not Vincent Blake the businessman, not Vincent Blake the billionaire. Just Vincent. And you're afraid I'm going back to being Vincent Blake the businessman? I'm afraid we both are. I'm afraid I'm becoming someone who worries about business relationships and social expectations instead of just being myself. Their argument was interrupted by a phone call from James Blake. We have a problem, James said without preamble. The Morrison Group is pulling out of the downtown development project. What? Why? Vincent asked, putting the phone on speaker. Because they're concerned about your stability. Your engagement to Dr. Thompson has raised questions about your judgment. That's ridiculous. Is it? Vincent, this is a $200 million project. Morrison has been our partner for 5 years. If they're concerned enough to pull out, we need to take it seriously. What exactly are they concerned about? They think you're being reckless. Getting engaged after knowing someone for 2 months, starting a foundation, making major life changes. They're worried you're not the same person you were before the accident. I'm not the same person. I'm better. Better for you maybe. But not necessarily better for business. After James hung up, Vincent and Amara sat in silence. This is because of me, Amara said finally. No, it's because of them. Because they can't accept that I might want something more than just making money. But it's affecting your business. So what? So what? Vincent, this is your life's work. This is what your father built. My father built a company. I want to build a life. What if you lose everything because of me? Then I'll build something new. With you. That's easy to say when you have $200 million. Is it about the money for you two now? No. It's about the fact that your entire world is falling apart because you're with me. My world isn't falling apart. It's changing. There's a difference. But over the next few weeks, it became clear that the Morrison situation was just the beginning. Other business partners began expressing concerns. The hospital board started questioning whether Amara's relationship with Vincent created conflicts of interest for the foundation they wanted to start. Even some of Vincent's employees seemed uncertain about his leadership. Maybe we need to slow down, Amara suggested one evening after a particularly difficult day at the hospital. Slow down how? Maybe we should postpone the wedding. Give people time to get used to the idea of us being together. And what if they never get used to it? Then we'll deal with that when it happens. Amara, are you having second thoughts? About marrying you? No. About the timing? Maybe. Why? Because I love you too much to watch you lose everything because of me. Vincent took her hands and looked directly into her eyes. Listen to me very carefully. I would rather lose everything and have you than keep everything and lose you. But what about your employees? Your responsibilities? What about my responsibility to myself? To live authentically? To be with the person I love? Those are luxuries that people with your kind of responsibility can't always afford. Says who? James? The board? People who are more interested in maintaining the status quo than in doing what's right. Maybe they have a point. Maybe I am a distraction. You're not a distraction. You're the most important thing in my life. But maybe that's the problem. Maybe I'm too important. Maybe you're making decisions based on your feelings for me instead of what's best for your business. Vincent was quiet for a long moment. Are you asking me to choose between you and my business? I'm asking you to be honest about whether you can have both. And if I can't? Then you need to decide what matters more. You matter more. Vincent. No, let me finish. Yes, I've built a successful business. Yes, I have responsibilities to my employees and investors. But none of that means anything if I'm miserable. And I was miserable before I met you. But you don't have to be miserable without me. You could find someone else, someone who fits better into your world. I don't want someone else. I want you. Even if it costs you everything? Even then. That night as they lay in bed, both Vincent and Amara were lost in their own thoughts. The challenges they faced seemed to be growing rather than diminishing. But neither was ready to give up on what they had built together. I have an idea, Vincent said suddenly. What? What if we prove them wrong? What if we show them that our relationship makes me better at business, not worse? How? The foundation. What if we make it so successful, so impactful, that no one can question our judgment anymore? That's a lot of pressure to put on a foundation. Not on the foundation. On us. On our ability to work together, to build something meaningful together. And if it doesn't work? Then at least we'll have tried. Together. Amara turned to face him in the darkness. You really think we can do this? I think we can do anything together. Even if everyone is against us? Especially then. As they held each other that night, both Vincent and Amara felt a renewed sense of determination. They were facing the biggest challenge of their relationship, but they were facing it together. And together they were stronger than any opposition. 1 year later, Vincent and Amara stood in the lobby of the Thompson Blake Medical Center, watching as the first patients received care at their new clinic. The foundation had exceeded everyone's expectations, providing free medical care to over 5,000 patients in its first year of operation. I can't believe we actually did it, Amara said, watching a young mother with her child speaking to one of their doctors. Did you ever doubt we would? Vincent asked, though he was smiling. Every day for the first 6 months. The path to this moment had not been easy. After their conversation about choosing between love and business, Vincent had made a decision that surprised everyone, including Amara. Instead of choosing one or the other, he had found a way to transform his entire approach to business. The morning after their difficult conversation, Vincent had called an emergency board meeting. I'm restructuring Blake Industries, he had announced to a room full of shocked faces. What does that mean? James had asked. It means I'm changing our mission. We're going to become a social impact company. Every project we take on will have to meet certain criteria for community benefit. Vincent, that's financial suicide, one board member had protested. Actually, it's not. Social impact companies are increasingly profitable. Consumers want to support businesses that align with their values. Investors are looking for sustainable, responsible investments. But what about our existing projects? We'll complete them, but we'll evaluate all future projects based on their potential for positive impact, not just profit. The transformation hadn't been immediate or easy. Some board members had resigned. Some investors had pulled out. But others had joined, excited by Vincent's new vision. The Morrison Group had initially stayed away, but 6 months later, they had approached Vincent about partnering on an affordable housing project. You were right, Morrison had told Vincent. The market is shifting toward companies with purpose. We want to be part of what you're building. Meanwhile, the Thompson Blake Foundation had grown beyond anything either Vincent or Amara had imagined. What had started as a small clinic had expanded to include mental health services, addiction treatment, and community education programs. Dr. Thompson Blake? A voice interrupted Amara's thoughts. She turned to see Dr. Martinez approaching with a woman she didn't recognize. "I'd like you to meet Dr. Sarah Williams from the CDC. She's here to discuss expanding our model to other cities." "Really?" Amara felt a thrill of excitement. "Your outcomes have been remarkable," Dr. Williams said. "We think this model could work in communities across the country." After Dr. Williams left, Amara found Vincent in his office, which was located right in the clinic. "Did you hear about the CDC?" she asked. "I did. Are you interested?" "Are you kidding? This is everything we dreamed of. It would mean a lot more work, a lot more travel, a lot more time apart. It would also mean helping thousands more people." Vincent smiled and pulled her into his arms. "Then let's do it. Just like that. Just like that. We're partners, remember? In everything." Their wedding had finally taken place 6 months earlier, exactly 1 year after Vincent's proposal. They had compromised on the guest list, 75 people including family, close friends, and a few key business associates. It had been held at the Foundation's original clinic, with the reception in the community garden they had helped establish. "It was perfect," Amara's mother had said. "It was exactly you." Now, as they stood in their expanded clinic, watching the impact of their work, both Vincent and Amara felt a deep sense of satisfaction. "Do you ever miss your old life?" Amara asked Vincent. "Never." "Do you ever regret taking a chance on us?" "Never." "Good. Because I have something to tell you." "What?" "James wants to join the Foundation. As our chief financial officer." "Really? What changed his mind?" "He said watching us work together made him realize that maybe there's more to life than just making money." "And you're okay with that?" "I think it could be good for him. And good for us. We need someone we trust to handle the financial side as we expand. Plus, it might be nice to have your brother back." "It might be." That evening they had dinner with James at their favorite restaurant, a small Italian place near the hospital where they had gone on their second date. "I owe you both an apology," James said after they had ordered. "I was wrong about your relationship. I was wrong about what it would mean for Vincent's judgment." "You were worried about the business," Vincent said. "I understand that. I was worried about losing my brother. Our parents died when we were young, and for a long time, work was all we had in common. When you started changing, I was afraid we'd lose that connection." "We found a better connection," Vincent replied. "We found a shared purpose. I'd like to be part of that if you'll have me." "We'd love to have you," Amara said. "But you should know we work hard and we don't always agree on everything." "I've noticed, but you work it out. You listen to each other." "Most of the time," Vincent said, laughing. 6 months later, the Thompson Blake Foundation was operating in 12 cities. Vincent and Amara traveled frequently, training staff and establishing new clinics. James had proven to be an excellent addition to their team, bringing financial expertise and business connections that helped them expand more quickly than they had thought possible. "I have news," Dr. Martinez told them during one of their visits to the original clinic. "Good news, I hope," Amara said. "The best. The Foundation has been nominated for the Community Impact Award from the American Medical Association." Vincent and Amara looked at each other in amazement. "That's incredible," Vincent said. "It's well-deserved. You've changed the model for how medical care can be delivered to underserved communities." That night, as they sat in their apartment, they had bought a place together, something that combined Vincent's need for space with Amara's desire for a real home. They reflected on how much their lives had changed. "2 years ago, I was a coma patient and you were a doctor who talked to unconscious people," Vincent said. "And now we're running a national foundation and changing healthcare delivery. Do you think we would have found each other if I hadn't had the accident?" "I don't know. But I'm glad we don't have to find out." "Me too." "Vincent?" "Yes. I'm pregnant." Vincent nearly dropped his wine glass. "What?" "I'm pregnant. About 8 weeks." "Are you serious?" "Completely serious." Vincent set down his glass and pulled Amara into his arms, spinning her around their living room. "We're having a baby?" "We're having a baby." "When?" "Early spring." "A spring baby. I like that." "Are you happy?" "I'm thrilled." "Are you?" "I'm terrified and excited and incredibly happy." "Good. That sounds about right." As they held each other that night, both Vincent and Amara marveled at the journey that had brought them here. From a routine bandage change to a love that had transformed both their lives, from facing opposition from everyone around them to building something that was making a difference in the world. "I love you," Vincent whispered. "I love you too. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." Together, Amara agreed. Outside their window, the city hummed with life. In 12 cities across the country, their clinics were providing care to people who needed it most. In boardrooms and hospitals, people were talking about the Thompson-Blake model and how it might change healthcare. But in their apartment, holding each other and their growing baby, Vincent and Amara were simply two people who had found love in the most unexpected place and built a life that exceeded their wildest dreams. Sometimes the best love stories begin with an ending, in this case the end of a 2-year sleep. Sometimes they begin with a simple act of care, changing a bandage, talking to someone who cannot respond. And sometimes they begin with two people brave enough to choose love over fear, hope over doubt, and possibility over safety. Vincent Blake and Amara Thompson had chosen each other, chosen love, and chosen to build something beautiful together. And their story, like their foundation, was just beginning. Dear readers, thank you so much for joining Vincent and Amara on their incredible journey from a hospital room to building a life-changing foundation together. Their story reminds us that love can bloom in the most unexpected places and that sometimes our greatest challenges lead to our most beautiful victories. I'd love to hear from you. What moment in their story touched you the most? Do you believe that Vincent and Amara's different backgrounds made their love stronger or more challenging? Have you ever had to fight for a relationship that others didn't understand? And what do you think their future holds as they prepare to become parents while running their growing foundation? Your comments and thoughts make these stories come alive, so please share your feelings about Vincent and Amara's journey in the comments below.